Questions to the Prime Minister. David Kidney.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number one.
Mr. Speaker, before listing my engagements, I'm sure the whole House will wish to join me in sending our profound condolences to the families and friends of Marine Dale Gostick, who was killed in Afghanistan on Sunday, the 25th of May. We owe him and all those who have given their lives in service of our country a huge debt of gratitude. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in the House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
David Callum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join the Prime Minister in paying tribute to Marine Dale Gostick, who was killed in Helmand Province on the 25th of May. He died serving our country, and we should honour his memory. The Chancellor of the Exchequer is today in front of the Treasury Select Committee, and the next tax hike planned by the government is to hit family cars, including those bought 7 years ago, with massive increases in vehicle excise duty. Is the Prime Minister really going to go ahead with this deeply unpopular tax when families are struggling with the cost of living? Or can he give us another of his trademark U-turns?
Mr. Speaker, if he looks in detail at this proposal, the majority of drivers will benefit from this proposal. And if he also looks in detail at his own policy, his policy says we recommend changes in VAD aimed primarily at influencing the used car market, where annual running costs comprise a larger proportion of total cost. And what he proposes is a ban in excess of £500, far worse than what he says we are proposing.
When is the Prime Minister going to learn? When is the Prime Minister going to learn that new green taxes should be offset one for one by cuts in family taxes? Now, the Prime Minister says we should look at the detail. Let me take him up on that, because he spews out statistics which actually, in any other walk of life, the trading standards officers would be in and clamping him in irons. He says that next year half of all motorists will be better off or no worse off. That's what he's just said. The full effect of this tax rise isn't planned till 2010, and the Treasury have said that 81% of cars under this regime will be worse off. Once again, dodgy statistics from the Prime Minister. Now let us start. Let's start with when this tax was first announced. When it was first announced, can he tell us why the Chancellor, in his budget speech, made no mention of the fact that this tax would hit people who bought a car up to 7 years ago? Why no mention?
It's in the budget documents. 24 of 30. 24 of the 30 top models that are the most popular models will have the same or a lower tax as a result of it. And he says that he supports green taxes. He also said a few days ago that there will be tough choices to make for the environment, and I won't shy away from them from one moment. Now, let us assume we both agree on the need for green taxes. Let us also agree that we both agree we need to deal with polluting cars, and let him tell us that he now supports our policy.
I have to say to the Prime Minister, if a company director got up and read out a statement like that, the authorities would be after him. He says, the Prime Minister says, let's concentrate on the detail. Let me just take one of the things he's just said. He said 24 out of the top 30 car models won't be affected. That's what he just said. What he's doing when he uses that figure of 24 is he's treating the Ford Focus, right, for example, as one model. In fact, there are 40 models of the Ford Focus, because you've got the saloon and the estate and the Queen of Cars. Yeah.
Let the Leader of the Opposition speak. Order, you're defying the chair. You wouldn't do that. The Leader of the Opposition.
I know the Prime Minister thinks you fill up a car with a barrel of oil, but these are the cars people actually buy with their money. Now, there are 40 models of the Ford Focus. There are 40... I don't know why they're all shouting at me. I don't know why they're shouting at me. It's the Prime Minister who's given you the lowest poll rating since Michael Foot. Right. Back to the Ford Focus. There are 40 models of the Ford Focus. Only 3 of them are better off. When is the Prime Minister going to stop using such dodgy statistics to back up his figures?
Mr. Speaker, as a result of the measures that are being taken to deal with polluting cars, a third more cars are low polluting in this country, and a quarter less are less polluting. So we are making advances in encouraging people to buy the less polluting cars. Now he says he supports green taxes. He says he supports green taxes. Steve Norris, who was on his Quality of Life review, says we should return to the fuel duty escalator. Now, when are the Conservative Party going to be honest when they say they support green taxes and then they run away from every one of them? Is it not like the Leader of the Opposition when he cycles to work and then his car is following behind him? He's sounding more and more like a used car salesman.
This Prime Minister is now so weak that members of his own government can come out and attack his policy, and they just sit there as part of his government. Now, the Prime Minister keeps telling us about reports to the Conservative Party. Let me read him some reports to the Labour Party. This is one from the Times yesterday with quotations from cabinet ministers. He's made terrible misjudgments. He's crap at communication. He doesn't seem to... Look, none of them have got the nerve to challenge him in a leadership election. Perhaps they'd like to own up to the quotes. Who was responsible for this one? Come on. The government is being buffeted by storms rather than steering a clear course. Anyone? Hands up. Maybe.
No. Just ask the question.
Why doesn't the Prime Minister realise that if he's still here next April, he's going to have to get rid of this deeply unpopular and un-environmental tax? Doesn't he understand if he doesn't get rid of it, they will probably get rid of him?
Nick Clegg.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to add my own expressions of sympathy and condolence to the family and friends of Marine Dale Gostick. Mr. Speaker, I think we've all been appalled by the grotesque spectacle of Robert Mugabe lecturing the world on food security, just as his government is blocking the distribution of food aid to his own people. But what message does it send that a man who has brought ruin and starvation to his own country continues to be honoured by a knighthood from ours? Does the Prime Minister at least accept that it's difficult to put pressure on other countries to do their bit to bring the Mugabe regime to heel if we don't take this simple, basic step? Will he take immediate action to strip Mugabe of his knighthood?
Mr. Speaker, I'm less interested in the symbols than the substance. And we have got to get elections in Zimbabwe that are seen to be free and fair. And we have got to get international observers to be present at these elections so that they are seen by the world as free and fair. And Zimbabwe deserves to have a government that is fully democratically elected and put in place, and that is where I'll put my efforts. As far as the famine in Zimbabwe and the loss of lives around the world as a result of famine, I hope he will agree with me that it was important that we were represented at the UN conference yesterday.
I agree with his tough words, but they need to be translated into action. So will he make it clear that unless minimum standards are met for the conduct of the elections, including the admission of international observers and explicit statements from Zimbabwe's military leaders that they will recognise the outcome of the poll, the UK will block all foreign currency remittances to Zimbabwe which fund Mugabe's odious regime, and he will request our allies in the region and the world to do the same.
We will, of course, look at every action that we can take, but the first thing to do is to make sure that these elections are free and fair. And we are working with other countries to make sure that there are international observers from other parts of the world as well as from Africa. There is a need for hundreds of observers because of the geography of the country and because of the threats of intimidation. And I'm working with the President of the African Union and the President of SADC and other leaders around the world to make sure that the offer of international observers is there and is taken up. And I hope the whole House will agree that that is the first priority, to make sure the elections are free and fair.